Hey, it's Russ Cartier from recordproduction.com. I'm just about to hand you over to the wonderful Mike Exeter, who's gone down to see Adrian Bushby, mix engineer, who's done massive artists such as Muse and so on. So they're probably going to be talking about mixing and things. Over to you, Mike.
One of the things I remember when working with, not being a name dropper, working with Dave Grohl, when he did a Foo Fighters record, he works on the vibe that everything's fucking awesome, let's make it even better.
Yeah.
And it's such a brilliant way to work, because if someone's coming and going, yeah, this is fucking awesome, let's make it even better, you go, yes, I'm fucking right up for that. It's such a brilliant way of working. So
absolutely.
Rather than going, oh no, it doesn't sound right, it's not good enough, you'll just be like, oh really? I did The Darkness, their last record a few years back, and it was weird. It came out, it was completely like out of the blue. This, oh, do you fancy a Darkness record? I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. You know what I mean? It's like, obviously they had that big record, and and then it they sort of went off, and I was like, oh, what's going on? Anyway, so I went and had a meeting with Dan, the guitar player, and he was sort of going, oh, how do you see like the recording going? And I was a bit like, I'm up for doing it however you want to do it, and they said, well, Rufus, who's the drummer, he's Roger Taylor's son.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, and he doesn't want to play the click, and I was like, awesome, nor do I, because the clicks are horrible. And then once you clicked and in the computer, you sort of go, oh, just move that. Do you know what I mean? You can't help it. It's like, so he didn't want to play the click, and the bass player hated headphones. He said because Dan produced the previous record, and he said he had a nightmare because he hated headphones. So I just said, well, let's just set up drums there, put two screens, and put the bass rig there and the guitar rig there, and just fucking play it. And I was like, I fucking hope this works. So we went down to Vader, but what I did was I put the drums through a PA. Right. I thought, I've got to have the drums as loud as these amps, otherwise I'm fucked. And it just, I was like, so we get all the mics. So I got a normal drum set, like lots of mics on the drums, and then just put the guitars and the bass and the amp, guitar amp on, and got them to play together. And I was like, fucking hell, I've got away with that. It just worked really well. And we had so much fun. Just it was like they were just like, right, ready, let's do that one then. It says, and it was just takes and takes and takes, and just snipping together. But yeah, it was really, really good fun, and they fucking loved it. So
I bet. I bet there's a happy accident as well, because I suppose if you're putting the drums through the PA, you're putting an amount of the big stuff and not so much of the cymbals and things.
Well, yeah, it was just,
so you're reinforcing all this huge.
Yeah, it was just like it was just like this. It was a mad sound just kicking off, because you've got amps going, and it was just, obviously then once you got playing, but it was just this whole like, almost like when the horses are ready to go, it's like before, it's like, should we do another take then? It's like this energy. I know it sounds a little bit
No, that's
hippie.
But it's all about energy. It's what I try to explain to people.
Everyone's a bit edgy, and it's like, I hope I get through there, it's going to be fun. It's like, so yeah, it was really enjoyable to do that. But yeah, so a lot of the time I prefer to sort of go along as almost like a more traditional route when I'm recording.
Well, it works, doesn't it? I think people have become frightened of doing it, and they've almost sidelined the other members of the bands, because you're guitarists doing everything at home in Pro Tools and writing everything, and everybody's got to kind of recreate that demo.
And stick to a lot of these programmed drum things that are good, because a lot of like I don't know, the plugin Superior Drummer and all that. They do sound very like effective and authentic and if it's well programmed, sometimes you can't quite tell the difference. But then you have this poor drummer who's got to try and hit his snare like a really well recorded sample that's accurate every time, and it's like it's never going to quite hold up to that. Do you know what I mean?
What sort of percentage do you think you do of production to mixing, and is it a conscious decision?
What to
keep doing both?
Yeah, I mean, when I built this room, it's quite a few years back now. I'd just come out of a good 7 or 8 years of just doing album one after the other, and I loved it. I mean, I love making records. It's what makes me tick. You know what I mean? When everything, it's the same it's the same feeling I get when you get everyone in the room. You put the faders up and you've got all your sounds, and they just start playing together, and it all locks in. I get this sort of like rush. It's like brilliant. I love it. And sorry, let's get back to what I was talking about. With that point I was in, I decided, I'd sort of noticed that I was mainly mixing all the stuff that I'd recorded,
Right.
and I wasn't really getting much experience on getting into mixing things that were being sent to me.
Right.
So I spent like a year or so just concentrating more on mixing, and I really enjoyed that part of it because it's interesting to see what you can add to a record just by coming in fresh. Do you know what I mean? Because I do a lot of the time. It doesn't happen that often, but I love sending my stuff off to get mixed.
Right.
Because like we were talking about, when you know something so well, it's really hard to. When you try and push it somewhere else, you just go back to where you've been used to it for the last however long you've been working on it. And it's really lovely to have stuff come back and someone's put something in a completely different place, volume, whatever, and it's just really exciting. So I was quite into getting into that side of it where stuff was sent to me and sort of going in fresh on it. But then I just really missed the vibe of being in the studio and like I said, when you get all the band in together and put the faders up and it all goes. I mean, there's not much for me. There's not much better than that. So at the moment, I'm trying to sort of balance it out where I can do sort of half and half really. You know what I mean? It's I really enjoy both sides of it. But I just love making records.
I guess that balances quite well because you've got a fairly young family.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of people's dreams would be to have this place in the bottom of the garden and just be able to beaver away. But you've got to make that work with family. You've also got to make your times away work.
Yeah, well.
So do you tend to do residential for a few days if you can do it?
No, well, yeah, if I can, depending on the project. Yeah. Again, these days the budgets are a lot tighter than they used to be. So, I mean, the last couple of records, I mean, the Mallory Knox record I did recently, we did that in over the space of a year. Right. But like, we did 7 days and we did 3 tracks in that 7 days, then we did a 4-day session. Do you know what I mean? And over the course of about 10 months, we'd done 12 tracks. Yeah. But other than that record, the last few albums I've done down at Vader have been like between 14 and 18 day sessions. Yeah. I've done an album in that time. You know what I mean? It's like you get in, especially with Black Peaks, they're such a good band and they were so well rehearsed. And I mean, the drummer's phenomenal. He can play all that stuff so technically perfect in one take. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's no dropping in, there's no editing. And so when you've got that sort of level of playmanship, you can do it very quickly because you can get like 3 takes and it's like, well, that second one was absolutely. Yeah. You might sort of go, well, the outro of that third one was really good, so we just pop that in. Yeah. But it's not a lot of like 6 or 7 hours doing drums and then edited them and then tightening them all up because it was such a. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes when it's such a mission. Yeah. I mean, the poor drummer is like sometimes doesn't know where he's coming from, so you do have to sort of then reorganise it. But I
think a lot of that's in the job of the producer, isn't it? It's to try and monitor what's going on and just make sure that their energy levels are at their peak and know when to stop for a day and go do something else. That's
another thing I'm noticing about, especially slightly, well, not younger, that's the wrong word, the newer bands, where they're sort of, because they're a lot more, what I will say is that the newer bands now are a lot more production savvy than they used to be, aren't they? They sort of, I guess it's because they have to be. But it's such a broad word, productions. But they sort of tend to home in on the production side of it is recording in the computer, but it's not, it's session management. It's like not getting carried away with something and wasting your time when it's clearly not going to happen. So it's like, well, let's stop doing that for a sec and just do something that we'll do quickly, or we'll do a good amount of work in this time, and then we can come back to that. Yeah. Because I've heard not heard a lot, but there's a few stories I've heard of sessions that have been down in Vader and a band have gone in and they literally haven't recorded anything for 5 days. Just because they're like changing strings and plugging amps in or let's try this guitar through those 3 amps. And it's like, guys, you've only got 6 days and you've spent 4 days getting sounds.
Classic thing with Kirk Hammet when they were recording the Black Album, and he's like, he's pissing around with his solo, and Bob Rock eventually goes, look, just play the solo, we'll reamp it later. Yeah. You know, honestly, get the solo down. Yeah. And there's that thing where you've just got to keep managing them. I mean, I think that's one of the big things about going to a studio that's got capability to set everybody up at once. Yeah. Because once you're in recording mode, you should be able to just switch across to, if he wants to do a lead vocal now, we can do that. Yes, and there should be no compromise.
No, I've always got a mic in the control room as well. Because I'm just, let's just do it. And I'm not really sort of, again, I'm not really that precious about what mic I use and through what pre. I mean, obviously there's certain things that work, and there's certain things that you learn along the way that you know works well and sounds good, and that's half the battle for me. If because I won't just use something if it sounds shit. If it's like a 20 grand mic for a 20 grand print, it sounds shit. I won't use it, but because it's always what sounds best for me. I did an album actually, just done an album out in Sweden in April in Gothenburg, and there's a studio there, and it's one of the best recording studios I've ever been to. I can't tell you what it's called because it's got some crazy Swedish name, but he had this big old Neve 8040 something, 8051, I don't know. It was Queen's desk.
Right.
So they did Under Pressure on it, and Planet Heroes was mixed on it.
Okay, right.
And this guy has got so much stuff in there, like vintage mics and just fucking everything. He had like 2 of those Sony C800 mics, 2 of that, just a couple of them. Cool. Just honestly, I'll have to show you the website. It's amazing. And I ended up doing it because I was there by myself. I had no assistant, no engineer, nothing. I was tidying up the studio at the end of the session. Wow. And I ended up recording everything with an 57 and an 87 overhead. Right. Just moving it around the room and putting it on because it just sounded great. Yeah. And it wasn't because I was being lazy, because if I'm going to record something that doesn't sound good, I've then got to deal with that afterwards, and that's even worse. But it was just, I put it up and I was like, fucking sounds great. Brilliant. So it's just, obviously I had certain things that were mic'd up and left, like the kit and the bass and but any other overdub and stuff, it was great. It just sounded brilliant straight away. So when that's an ideal situation for me. Just, you can work in a place where you put the fader up and it's like, lovely, let's just...
Yeah, because then you concentrate on the music, don't you?
Exactly.
Which is the point.
Sometimes the technical side of it really does... If you're running around chasing the tail going, oh, this microphone, it's time sapping and it's boring for everyone, and everyone feels that, you know what I mean? Everyone... It's like I always find setup days are really bad, because it's normally the first time you met the band, and you're normally in this nice studio and everyone's ready to go, and you're like, are we ready yet? And it's like, no, we're going to be all day doing this. So I try now and do a setup day ahead of the starting day, which is what I did in that project in Sweden. I got there a day before the band, just because that's when the flight got me in on Sunday. So I spent the whole day just plugging stuff in. I'm not rushing, you know what I mean? Just plugging it in, checking it. It's like, that's working. And it just sort of spent, I don't know, I spent 12 hours just plugging stuff in. I know it's by myself, but I still sort of did it in a sort of more methodical way. Whereas I always find when you start and you want to record on the first day, you're fucking crazy. Yeah. Plugging shit in, and it's like, oh, that, and then you stretch leads of it. I would sort that out later, and it's just, before you know it, you're working in this really uncomfortable, untidy, stressed environment from the off.
And it's normally driven by the band who haven't listened to you saying it's going to take that day to get everybody happy. I always say to them, if it's like, it's going to take this time, we may get a chance for everybody to like run through a couple of songs, but the drummer's going to be fucked because he's been, getting sounds for us. Everybody's going to be in a weird place, but trust me, when you fire up tomorrow morning, everybody's going to hear what they need to, and you're going to have so much energy to play.
Yes, exactly,
And it's instant. You get 2 or 3 tracks in a day at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
And then they're knackered, and they take another week to do the next track.
Yeah. But it's it's always that first day, start recording at 10 when everyone's battered. But
so do you not tend to get to work with bands in rehearsal much beforehand, or is that just...
Sometimes I do, if it's needed. You know what I mean? A lot of the time I get sent demos now, and I'm like, Jesus, man, they've like...
Yeah, how do we beat this?
Yeah, that sometimes is a bit like... Luckily, I've just been sent something, because I'm going to do a project in September with a band, just like 3 tracks. And the first... They've initially sent me, so what do you think of these? Oh, I really like them, but they were going to be released, because, they're good. And then they've sent me the new demos on a phone.
That's more like it.
Fucking awful. I'm sure I can make that sound better.
There's a challenge.
Yeah, that's the thing. I really like the vibe of the phone recording. Rehearsals, it's something I'm happy to do, but again, I'm always a bit wary of having to say something to justify your point, your place in the room. Yeah. That's what I do say that a lot to bands. It's like, because you go into pre-production rehearsal, and sometimes I feel people feel obliged to pull the song apart and go, right, I'll put my stamp on it. It's like, well, I don't know. I think I think you're entitled as a producer to go, this is fucking great.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes I think people are looking for you as a producer to go, right then, I'll make this into a song. I'll show you this is what I do. But if it's fucking great, then you need to tell them. I did that with, again, I keep going back to the Black Peaks. They sent me demos that they'd done and they were amazing. And when I went to a meeting with them, and I tried my best to pick holes in these tracks, and each one I just went, fucking awesome, fucking awesome. I showed my bit of personality. That's what my notes are. It's fucking awesome. And that was, you know what I mean?
That's brilliant.
Yeah. that was the long and short of it. Because it didn't need it. You didn't need pulling around. But sometimes it does. Sometimes you do have songs where there's a section and it just doesn't sound like they'll use it in the chorus. And it's like, well, that just sounds like a great middle eight. And it's like, but again, it's like they're their songs, and all you can do is go, this is what I think will make it better, and you have to just stick to that.
Every time I do a project, which I think I've got total control of, in terms of like, I've done pre-production with a band, I think I've nailed everything that I could possibly fail on. Every time something goes wrong, whether it's they change the key of the song and don't get their guitar set up to, I tell them to change skins on the drums and they pick ones that are crap, or they use a kit they've never used before, or they buy an 8-string guitar just before the session. Some of the things that you would kind of encourage a band to bring to a session in terms of preparedness to make your life easier. Have any bitten you on the arse recently?
What, as in a preparation thing, and then they changed it last minute? I'll tell you what, a lot of the time, not a lot of the time, but I've had a couple of situations where I've had 4 demos to work. Like, these are the 4, so pick 3 of these 4 or pick 3 of these 5, and you pick them and you go, right, and I do loads of work in my head on them, and then they just don't bother doing those ones, and they tell me, and they bring some new ones.
Oh, nice.
That's always a bit tricky, because it's like, fucking hell, I'm not ready for that. You're probably the same as me. We've got so much experience under our belt now that there's not really many situations where you can't draw on that experience to sort of pull you out of a bit of a hole. Do you know what I mean? So I generally go in quite open-minded, fully expecting stuff to be the rug to be pulled from under my feet. So yeah, I mean, I've had things where the drummer's got a new kit and it's not used to playing that one, and but you generally just have to work around it.
Well, as you say, I think it's the wealth of experience. It's like I go into, I used to get a bit pumped about going into a room thinking I was going to change the world. Now it's like, actually, I think this is going to be a really good fun time, and great music's going to to be made, and hopefully they'll have fun. We've just got to get through this thing without anybody losing their mind.
Well, that's myself included. I used to be quite very sort of. The same as what you just said, quite full on, and it's got to be the best thing ever, and it's like really sort of over stressing and overthinking it, and it became not fun. It became a stress, and it doesn't need to be like that. It is the funnest thing in the world, making records for a living. Do you know what I mean? Because it's just the best. Do you know what I mean? It's brilliant, and anyone that gets the bug early on knows that. You know what I mean? As I'm sure you did. You just live it. It's just the best thing in the world, and coming in and not quite knowing what's going to happen, sort of knowing, but not quite knowing, is good. Well, harking back to a bit earlier, the session I did in Sweden, the album I did, it's a band called Invasion, and they're
a dance band.
No, they're not. Yeah, they're a dance band. No, the singer is from a band called Refused, and they're a Swedish, quite Swedish rock band. And this is his other band, and it's very sort of Joy Division-y, synthy, new wave, early New Order-y type. Not my comfort zone at all. I'm used to I'm a bit more used to at the moment doing rock bands, and I sort of know. You sort of know where you're going to go with it. Before you start, I said, "I know where I'm going. Follow me." It's like, "I'll take you there. I know where we're going." But this was like. I was like, fuck, I've not done this before. Well, like, not done it in like an album's worth, and it was really quite sort of left field. But again, it gave me this sort of extra buzz when I got there, and it's like we set up all loads of these synths, and just we were hitting bits of metal and ladders and shit like that, and it was fucking great, really good fun. And yeah, it was really intense, 14 days, like 16-hour days straight.
Yeah.
Really hard work. But I think because I had that sort of unknown buzz going on, it was really sort of quite, yeah.
I think it helps you develop a language with the guys a bit more as well, because it's like you've really got to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is most of this shit, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
A good friend of mine, Dom, someone asked him if, what happens if an artist comes back with a mix revision you don't agree with? He goes, well, I haven't understood what they wanted then. Right. It's like we've got to develop that language about what they're trying to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think it's quite good working out of your comfort zone a bit sometimes.
Yeah, well, I do always try and do that with bands.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to go, what records do you like the sound of, and what are you listening to? Because I think sometimes, especially with producers and engineers, you sort of get this like, well, I know what I'm doing, I don't need to listen to anything else. And I think that's a bit of a snobby attitude, because there's so many great records that sometimes you haven't heard. I mean, definitely with the last few bands I worked with, I just say, what are you really into? And they send me this list, and I'm like, fucking hell, what's this? But then you just dive in and you discover these new records and certain sounds or ways of doing stuff, and it's like, well, I wouldn't have thought of that, but I'm going to now because I really love that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's good these days to discover that, because so much stuff has been done back in the 60s and 70s and 80s. You know what I mean? These sort of techniques and processes that we've carried through to now. When you hear something new, it's exciting in the end, you know what I mean? But yeah, I always make a point of knowing what they're into and what their vibe is, because I think that's really good to get on their, like you say, on their wavelength. Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes feel like a real imposter. I mean, my girlfriend knows more metal bands than I do. Right. It's brilliant, because she'll go up to speak to them and I'll be like, I've no idea who she's talking about. But it's brilliant, because it's like that thing of like the discovery. They assume because you've done certain stuff that you must know everybody in that genre, but you don't. And I think that's what makes it, as you say, it's nice discovering new stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
That's like I said to you earlier, my son is about to turn 17, got me into Marmozets. They were supported by Black Peaks, and it was like, I looked them up, I'm like, oh, Black Peaks, I must make a note of this, because it's all new stuff and it's fucking fantastic stuff. I mean, the energy off the stage that evening was like, wow, capture that.
Exactly,
and that's what the kids want to hear, the kids.
the kids,
But they do, they want to go and see their favourite band and then come back and
smash
that's what they listen to,
that's
while they're smashing the room up.
That's what I always, when I'm mixing, definitely it's like you get that sort of point where I do want to sort of stand up and pull a chair over. When I get like that, I'm like, I'm on somewhere. Hope everyone else is on my vibe. It's just me. I generally sort of get that sort of energy from in myself. You know what I mean?
Because I think there does come points in projects where you realise you've pulled like 12 hours on something and you're just like, nothing can break that, because you're just so into it. And it's not that thing of like, I'm knackered and I'm chasing, stupidity. I'm just like, this is great. I want to make this as good as I can, and then throw it away. And
that's one of the things I remember when working with, not be a name dropper, working with Dave Grohl when he did a Foo Fighters record. He works on the vibe that everything's fucking awesome, let's make it even better. And it's such a brilliant way to work, because if someone's coming and going, this is fucking awesome, let's make it even better, you go, I'm fucking right up for that. It's such a brilliant way of working. So
absolutely.
Rather than going, oh no, it doesn't sound right, it's not good enough, you'll just be like, oh really? You know what I mean? I just thought it was a really good ethos to live by. So everything's fucking great.
I get that with the odd band. It's like when we're talking about, getting drum tracks or getting band tracks played. I love it when the drummer comes back and he goes, it's good, but I want to beat that. And you're like, brilliant, because I know this is good enough. But if he's got something else in him, that's even better. They
generally do. You know what I mean? They generally, because you're not worried then. You're not sort of going, oh, I don't know if this is quite good enough. If you're really happy with something and then he goes and smashes it, it's
and
great.
The band are normally up for, we'll give it another go.
They've
realised that they don't need to work to clicks. They can just do take after take, and we can just nick that half chorus and put it in, and it'll be fine. And all the questions about how are we going to match tempos, it's like, you won't have to.
Don't worry about that. It'll be fine.
It's really good. I think there's a resurgence in it. That certainly maybe it's just us older people that are bringing it back.
Exactly. I think so. Yeah.
So to get on to some other stuff, I mean, you've got a beautiful room here. I know that you've had it for quite a few years now. And do you want to talk us through a little bit of your newer work process? Because I know previously you were very much in the box.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I was very in the box, but I did always used to pop out into some outboard and back in. I just liked the sort of the process of whatever that did. It sort of smeared it up a bit and made it a bit less separate. So yeah, generally what I do these days is I'll spread it out up the desk now. I've got this nice SSL about a year ago now, and I'll tend to sort of have maybe like 6 outputs, and maybe I've got some Neves here, depending on what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I might have them all going, or something, because I've got a couple of other little sort of. I've got a Dolby down there, you know, the Dolby trick.
Yeah.
So that sometimes gets put in the mix a bit. But again, I try and keep it as simple as possible, just for recalls. You know what I mean? That's why I've got these little bits of glass here. So I know that the faders are always at that point, so they can't accidentally, you know what I mean?
Did you have to get the glass made specially, or was it just lucky?
No, I got the glass cut down the road, and I did have it, what's that, siliconed to there, but George came in and had to do some work on it. He's pulled them all off. But yeah, so I tend to run it like a big summing mixer, but it does have a sound. You know what I mean? It has a beautiful sound that I really.
And you can do that quick thing where you just know you need to tweak the EQ slightly, and or do you not do that? Don't
really touch the EQs. I sometimes have a couple of channels in.
Right.
This is quite a basic setup at the moment, but I'll pop channels in, and sometimes I'll drive the lines so that the overloads are coming on.
Right. Okay.
Because there's a point where I really like the sound of it sort of clipping. You don't really. It's not clipping. It's not like
just a bit of smoothing almost.
Yeah, that was always the thing with what I found with S, because I trained on SSL, so I sort of got to know them really well. That you could poke these quite happily. They'd be flashing away, and it doesn't distort. You just get a good. Whereas with when they went over to the 9000s, like you remember those, and the overload light would come on, it would do this horrible clipping sound. It's like, what have you done? That's the fun bit. You've just taken the fucking fun bit out. But yeah, so I'd run it. I have that in, and then I go out through. I've got an Alicia compressor over there, which again does nothing. It doesn't do any compression. It's just in.
Yeah.
And I just like the sound of it. And then a couple of Neve EQs, the 1073s, are they? Anyway, they just do a very tiny bit of top and bottom. And then into the black line audio, white black line audio, and then that's sort of my my setup really. And then when I come back in the box, if I need to do any, so I have the session up, outputs out of there, out of the mix bus, back into Pro Tools. Then I monitor through my record track or my aux track, whatever I'm coming through. And then on that, I'll generally have a bit more processing, like I don't know, maybe some parallel compression. What else do I normally have on there? I normally have the Slate Digital virtual mix rack on there, and I use the Air EQ. I really like that, just on like 0.50 or 1. It's just got that sort of sparkly top end. Not a great deal, but and again, it depends on the session. Sometimes I really do smash the shit out of the mix bus because it works. It depends. Sometimes if you need, I find if I'm trying to sort of get, I'm finding that I'm trying to add more compression individually to everything. I'm thinking, well, what I tend to try and do then is go for a parallel compression and smash the shit out of. I use it's called Manic Compressor.
Right.
It's by a company called BDL.
Right.
And it's great. It's really, really severe, but it's got a mix. So you could just nudge a really tiny bit in. So you get this sort of like energy sort of boiling behind, but it doesn't destroy. You know, obviously, over compression can be detrimental. But I'm quite fond of a bit of compression. But yes, and you sort of get this sort of push and pull. Again, the sort of same thing as when I said when I had that band tracking and the leads were all buzzing. And you get that sort of intensity. Sort of, I'm not quite knowing what's going to go on.
Well, it's true, isn't it? Because I mean, the thing is like with the older these series of SSLs and the E's. So people tended to put a Massenburg on the stereo bus just to give you an instant top end lift.
Yes.
And then you use the console for what it's good at, which is that mid range and stuff. And so you're not having to do that individual thing on each channel. And yeah, I think people get a bit too caught up on diving into the intricacies of every track instead of going big picture. This with a bit of balancing actually sounds really good. What do I need to do to make it come through the speakers the way I want it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Which is why faders are so important.
Yes, I love faders. We're big fans of faders, aren't we?
And automation. I mean, automation's a massive part of the mix process for me.
It's fantastic. Yeah, you can't do it without it.
No.
It's what makes it all tick. I remember I worked with an engineer called Mike Fraser.
Yeah.
Do you know him? He's a Canadian.
Yeah.
Hi,
Mike.
Hi, Mike. I learned so much from him. I was like, how old were I? Been about 19 or so, and he came in with. I was working at Trident, and Andy Taylor from Duran Duran was producing. I can't remember what band it was now, but he came in, and I was really excited because he'd done Aerosmith, and he was he was Canadian. I thought it was American, but he's Canadian, obviously, and. Everything was just on 11. Yeah. It was fucking great. Everything, because I was from that very British zero. And he was doing some. That's right. I lined the tape machine up, and I did it 3 times. So I kept lining it up, playing, and all the faders went boom. I was like, fucking hell, I've done the lineup right. And then he came in, and I was like, Mike, I've done the lineup a few times. I think it's a bit wrong. He's like, no, man, I fucking love it slamming, and everything was slamming. It was fucking great. So, what's my point?
Fade automation.
Oh yeah. So when he was doing just rough mixes, he would just be slamming shit. He would have the desk compressor quite, and he'd be pushing drums into it, and you'd really hear it, and it was really exciting. Yeah. And so that I sort of learned a lot from that. His sort of way of doing stuff and this excitement, and not really sort of obeying too many sort of this is how you do it boundaries. You know what I mean? It was quite liberating of I can do what you want. It's as long as it sounds great.
Well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, actually, that's a good point. I'll come on to the monitoring, but it's that thing of I've done a bit of live mixing, and I think that's the essence of pure mixing, because you're reacting to what's there.
What's going on? Yeah.
And it's brilliant. I did something recently where I was down at YouTube in London. I was working on this unautomated SSL System T.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, and I'm doing I was doing a live band mix to start with to go out on broadcast. And then I remixed it. But we remixed it by just going, actually, this bit needs a bit more. Right, let's punch in. Into the record, so it's almost like half-inch edit mixing.
Yeah. So you're dropping in.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
And actually, I'll try the guitar solo. If I get it wrong, we'll go back and we'll try it again. Yeah. And it was just wonderful to do it that way. And it's all down to that excitement of reacting to what's there, happening, which is a wonderful segue into monitoring. You see, because it's if I mean, obviously, you've done a fair amount of treatment in here, which is so important. I mean, anybody watching is probably going to want the magic pill of how to get a room sounding good, but
I'm not sure there is a magic pill, because I think you just have to become used to what's going on, because I mean I did sort of pour over this room a bit, because obviously I built it at the bottom of my garden. It's a square box, and I was fucking hell, I don't know what's going on, because I was used to working in voiced rooms or treated rooms. And I spent quite a bit of time doing stuff and moving things around, and then I got this company to build this not build it, but install this. But it was still a bit strange. And like I said, I was using that ARC plugin, and then I decided that was confusing the issue too much, because I thought I should have the speakers in the room and I should have them sounding as good as they can without and whatever is wrong with it, then I'll deal with from my end. So. At the moment, the room sounds great if I'm here. Yeah. Which I'm quite happy with.
Yeah, definitely.
Over here or back there, it's a nightmare. It's really, but where I am, it's really great. There's still a few little bits and bobs that I have to be aware of, but I'm aware of them. And I know that sometimes, for the vocal, for example, I have to push it a bit more than I would. I can't balance it in, because when I take it, when I was previously taking it into the house or in the car, I was like, oh, it sounded louder in the studio. So now I just, as a rule, I'll mix my vocals maybe a dB louder than I would balance them. And that, again, that comes from being in the same room where everything's set up the same all the time, and you get used to it. Because I've said it to a few people back in the day when I used to work at the strong room and rack, and and all the like the nice studios, you do a mix, and you spend the first day doing a mix, and you'd finish at like whatever 11 midnight, and you take your CD home and listen to it the next day, and just go, oh, it didn't sound like that in there. And this is a really expensive fucking.
Absolutely.
Well, no, it sounded better in like that. Doesn't sound. It's not translating as well as I'd expect it to, and so then you'd have to go in and tweak, and then over like a period of maybe like 3 or 4 days or a week. If you're doing an album, by the second week, you sort of knew. You'd be taking references home and going, "All right, well that sounds like it did," because you'd got used to what wasn't translating. Do you know what I mean? And these are expensive rooms, so I figured that if I have to do that with an expensive room, I can make a room work for me. And you sort of you just work into it. I've gone backwards and forwards in monitors over the years. I started off in here. I used to use Proax.
Right.
Passive, the hi-fi speakers. They were great, but it's weird. When I built this room and I put them in here on my old, I had a C24, they just sounded wrong. They didn't sound right, didn't suit the room. And so they instantly went. And then I went around the houses a bit with, I had some KLKs in because I used to use those a lot with Gil. And I find those, they're knucklehead speakers. They just go, make it louder, let's go. And they are great when you fucking slam the shit out of them. But I'd been dead, I'd be deaf. I was like, fucking hell, man, because this is a small room. And then I remembered someone, a guy called Kevin Bacon at Rack. He had some little, the vocals,
the
twins, And I remember they worked really well at low volume. And so I got those and got into those for a bit. And then just it's about a year and a half ago, I got talked into these by Kevin at Unity, and they are really good. I do love them. But again, they're sometimes a bit much because I'm very near to them. Do you know what I mean? If I'm here, they're very near. So I use the AE1s a lot now, which again, there's some passive speakers from back in the day, but they're really nice. But again,
I guess once you've got your low end sorted, it's more about everything that goes on speakers like that, isn't it?
Yeah, well, who's got $7,000 speakers in the fucking bedroom? No one has. So that's another thing. You have to sometimes. I mean, obviously, you have to know what's going on from the full frequency response, but you also have to be very aware of how people are consuming music these days, and you have to. That's right. And you have to. I suppose you have to adhere to that.
Yeah, it's cool.
You have to adhere to that to a certain point, or I think you're dead in the water.
Yeah, totally.
Because if you've got kids listening to records on laptop speakers or the speakers to get with their phones, and that's how they're used to it, then you have to cater for that. You know what I mean? You can't just go, well, it sounds great on my big speakers in my studio. That's not very enjoyable for them,
no,
is it?
Exactly. There is a game to play, and it is hard. But I mean, I was blown away. There was a track on Bowie's last album called Lazarus.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, where the fuck's that low end coming from? And yet it's great on every single system, and that's one I pop into my reference.
Oh,
like,
okay,
fuck, how does that work? But you can kind of get there, but
probably by accident.
Yeah, that's bound to be. They didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, they accidentally plugged something in.
So, did you notice much of a difference with when you put the SSL in, from the fact you've got like this big chunk of diffusion and sort of absorptive stuff in this desk?
Yes.
Did you notice a massive thing compared to just having a lightweight controller?
I did, yeah. It's interesting you should say that. I did, and I sort of fannied around quite a while with that. Because I remember when I had the because I had the SM9s in here before the Unities, and they just used to happily sit on I had an Argosy console with a C24, and they sat on there on those Prima, those like, foamy things. Fine, all sounded great. Then I put the SSL in, and so that's the other thing, I used to have that in the middle.
Right.
And it was all fine. And then I put the SSL in, plonked them on there, and it's like, well, that sounds fucking nothing like it did. It did sound really different. So then I built this thing on the top of here, and behind there I've got some breeze blocks.
Yeah.
So, because this floor's quite hollow, it's quite resonant. So then
the bass trap then.
Well, I didn't know what was. I don't know. I don't know the technicalities about it. So I built. There's some stands behind that go onto the breeze blocks, and then I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing something, and I had to take the screen off. I think it was something to do with the desk. And I was playing something. I was like, oh, that fucking sounds so much better. Oh, and these were a lot wider as well. So they're much wider.
Yeah.
They're almost to the ends. And so I took them off those things, brought them in, took the screen away, and it changed everything instantly. It was like that's why I'm working like this now, because a lot of people say, "Oh, how do you work like that? Don't you get like just a deaf right ear?" And I don't really, because it's not up. You know, it's not like up there. To be honest with you, I'm mainly on that little box. I love that. I can't work without that. I've got another one in the house because, like you say, you go on the big speakers, the bigger ones, and you get your bottom end, make sure it's not sort of destroying anything too much, and they're good fun. But to work like that for 12 hours a day, it's very tiring. Yeah, you know what I mean, so it's nice just to go down to a little like dim, and sort of, and I tend to bounce between those two. Yeah, and get a lot of sort of, and then it's sort of, you get it sort of working together, and then occasionally you just go on there for fun. You know what I mean? It's like, and obviously, I think they're good for checking for people that have got nice car stereos, because a lot of the time now, I think with those really posh car stereos, they're really sort of quite hyped up, and I think if you're not taking care of certain frequencies, it tends to...
That's what I notice a lot, because my car's got a crap stereo in it, but it's got crap speakers. I put a new one in that's got extra bass 1 and 2, and it's a nice unit, but I really notice it's like the difference in bottom end in people's mixes. You just bump through a Spotify playlist and you're like, fucking off. On. And I think that's the big thing, is people's low end stuff is just either out of control or there's not enough of it.
Exactly.
So I think it is important. And then you leave it alone, from my point of view. It's like, get back to the important stuff.
I find the whole the bottom end, enough, not enough, quite tiring. You know
I needed a few people to approve mixes before I went, okay, right, I'm never going to worry about that again at the moment. But it's hard work.
Yeah. It is.
It's like
but it's fun.
It is, and I think it's always a challenge. I mean, I now relish sending out mixes for approval. It's the way I actually relish going working with bands and coming out with ideas and actually getting them down, because it's like, it's just so good for confidence when they go, that's a really good idea. I'm not a twat.
When they go for it, it's brilliant, isn't it?
Exactly. Because without putting yourself out there, you're never going to get anywhere. And that whole learning from criticism thing, it's like...
Yeah, I used to get a little bit crushed by that, because I think that's more of an insecurity thing. You think you've done something wrong. Yeah. But I think once you get over that, and it's like, well, it's not wrong. It's just another way of thinking it. Because whenever I used to spend, years ago now, I used to spend a lot of time poring over whether someone would like this, or whether, I wonder if they like that, or maybe they prefer that. And it's like, you're second guessing something. You have no control.
Just send it to them.
Just do what you think is fucking great. It makes you want to smash the room up. Yeah. And then they'll either love that, or they'll go, I love this part, or they won't. So there's like and if they don't, you do your best to sort of get what they want, but sometimes it just doesn't meet. I'm not proud that if it gets to a point, it's like this. I don't know, is this working? Because sometimes it is. You just don't meet the. Yeah. Not often. It's like you tend to get there eventually, but sometimes it goes and you just get that. Yeah, this is fucking awesome. It's just yay! Today's a great day when they come in. It's brilliant.
So I mean, there's a sort of a question in there as well. It's like you work a long time with a particular artist, and they decide to go in a completely different direction.
At the mixing stage?
Well, even in like production, album, mate, you know, at some point you've had sort of a fairly long-term relationship with a band, and then they go, we're going to do this time. Yeah. That's fairly gutting at the time, isn't it? But do you just think, right, okay, well, I'm through that, or, you know, it may not be for this moment, or is it a wound that I've opened there?
Sorry, what do you...
So, you know, because it's you tend to... You can have long-term relationships with friends, bands, artists, whatever, and then suddenly they don't want to work with you on a particular project.
Oh, okay,
you see what I mean?
Right, so,
How have you coped if that's happened to you?
I'm generally fine with it, to be honest with you. Yeah, so it's disappointing, obviously. Right. Sometimes if you really want to do, if you've had a lot of fun making a record and you really want to do the next one, and it doesn't happen, then sometimes that's a bit like, disappointing more than anything. But I'm a firm believer in it's never as good the second time around.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm sometimes a bit wary if you've had a really good. Yeah. If I've worked on an album and it was fucking such good fun and it did really well, sometimes it's a bit, you've got to be careful going back over that ground. You know what I mean? I think.
because that gets into second guessing territory, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's like, I remember when Def Leppard had done Hysteria and they come out with the next one, and they were, what would Mutt do?
Yeah,
the whole way through it.
Was,
and
yeah.
like,
there's been a few records over the years that have done that, but there's to be honest with you, when you think about it, there's not really that many bands that have stuck with the same person for pretty much their whole career. I mean, obviously there's Nigel Godrich and Radiohead, but I don't see why in a million years you'd want to upset that apple cart, because it works so well, and they work so well together. The records are a testament to that. But when you think about it, in the old days, it was normally record by record, producer by producer. It sort of just, it went like that. I think that's something that's definitely come about in the last 10 years or so, because people just want to hang on to the work. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's good. Oh, I've got to do the next record, because otherwise what am I going to do? Do you know what I mean? I think, but that's just, I think, because the business has changed so much. Because when you look at it back in the 80s and 90s, there were so many bands making records all the time. You know what I mean? There was a lot of work, a lot of records being made, and there was a lot of people who needed to make those records, and people did bounce around. Well, he did their last record, and then a lot of the time it was he did that record, so he did, and they'd swap over. But yeah, I definitely think a lot of the time now it's clinging on to the artist, so you can and do more work with them. But
I mean, I think it's healthy. I think it's not. I don't regard it as competition. I think it's quite important that you open yourself up to not grabbing onto something so tightly. You eventually end up crushing.
Oh yeah, I've always been very conscious about not staying with one artist. Try not to anyway. Obviously, I don't think I'd ever say no to anyone. Because I'm at that point now where I don't generally want to say no. Do you know what I mean? Works, whoever comes in that I work with, I always enjoy it 150%.
Yeah.
But I'm always a bit wary of doing more than maybe a couple of albums back to back with a band, because you can lose a freshness and a perspective, because you start just doing going through the motions a bit. You know what I mean? I do like going into sessions with a new band and it being a bit of just another sort of another layer of experience. You know what I mean?
You do learn off
what you're going to get.
Well, you learn off everybody, don't you? Every time you go in, someone will show you something. They've got.
Oh God, yeah, every day.
It's brilliant.
Yeah. That's why I'm always a bit skeptical. Not skeptical, but I don't think I'd ever do one of those like watch me mix this, because it's like who's to say that what I'm doing there is exactly right? Because it's right for me, but you can't then just copy what. It has to come from your heart. I always think it has to come from what's in you, and you can't really teach that. You have to just go. Who's it said it? I think Mark Stent said to me once that you could teach anyone to use a desk in 6 months. I could teach my 10, 11-year-old to use the desk, but it's what you do with it. It's what comes from inside that's where it's from, and I think that's where obviously the talent is. You know what I mean? It's not just about...
and it's the passion as well, isn't it? It's like I mixed something last night. I threw it out to the artist, and then listened on the way down to Mike's this morning, and immediately I had a list of things I'd change, but not massive things. It's just like, oh yeah, that's right, that's how I feel, that's something that I should change. And I wish I'd been able to record it, but that would have been dangerous strong. But it was that thing of like, that's a real simple set of things that I've now got a bit of closure on and I can do. But that there's no technique to that. It's just listening, going, oh, when it got to the end of the song, I pushed everything else so much I couldn't hear the lead vocal. Which I didn't hear last night.
No. Yeah, but you were probably vibing on
exactly.
Else.
So it's just that whole thing of understanding the music, and it's that energy thing. Always.
And it's always and it means something to us. Do you know what I mean? It has to mean something. Otherwise, why would you bother? Do you know what I mean? Why would you bother doing that? You just leave it. I mean, but we can't, because it means so much to us that we wouldn't sleep, we wouldn't be happy. Do you know, letting it rest like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I guess that's what.
So right, I'll do a couple of silly questions. Like what would one of the best things that has happened in terms of technology environment? What's one of the best things that all this has brought to you in recent years? What's something that's really changed things for the positive, maybe to allow you to do this? And what are the what's one of the major downsides? You really hate the way things have gone.
Okay, well, definitely, obviously, Pro Tools for me has been.
Is that the downside?
No, I know. No, it's an upside. I mean, I trained on tape, and it was great, and it was fun and it was brilliant. But again, it was like it was a different era. It's like back in the day when I started working in studios, and it was like 1987, 88, and we were running 48 track tape machines, like 2 tape machines in sync. I remember the old boys then, when you see it, you go, fucking spoiled. We used to have 8 tracks, 8 tracks we do an album on, and you'd be like, oh, well, you're using 48 now. And it's like, but yeah, it was a big chore. It was very, but that, I mean, again, then I'm going to go on to my downside. Yeah. So the computers have just made a workflow so much more accessible, and to the point where I can work in an environment like this. And I love it because I can do so much stuff. I can work with new bands. I can work with bands and just say, send me whatever you've got on your drive, and I'll have a look at it. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It opens up so much more to sort of spreading yourself wider. And I do really love the what you can do with it. I think it's that's definitely an upside for me. But then the downside is overdoing it's like the Pandora's box of what it's opened up, and the fact that you can see something without hearing it. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's hard not to zoom in and go. But I do stop myself a lot of the time. I'm not like a, it's got to be on that line. I can't stand that because it's just, if you can't hear it, then it's not there. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes it's good for it to be a bit ahead. So yeah, the overuse of computers. I mean, I love computers. They're what they've done, and the speed in which you can do stuff, and the momentum you can keep going. You don't have to spend a day doing a drum edit. No. But the downside is the overuse of technology in that, over editing and stuff like that. But also the lack of training, unfortunately. Yes. I'll say that's quite a shame. I feel sorry. Yeah, I mean, I feel a bit sorry for kids that are getting into this, because back when I started as a T-boy, there was hundreds of studios in London that you could try and get your foot in and try and learn from some great people who had loads of experience. But there's none anymore. There's a few, obviously, that we know about, the big ones. But so yeah, unfortunately, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever way you look at it, they're having to learn a bit more self-taught, which is great, because then they're starting from a fresh, you know what I mean, a clean slate and working their way up. But I always found that even one tiny bit of pearl of wisdom that I got from someone that had been doing it for 20 odd years already was just gold dust. You know what I mean? Well,
it's good, because I do the odd university talks to students, and I'll go in and I'll talk about production or whatever, and mixing, and we'll put up tapes, so we'll put up Pro Tool sessions. But I've noticed a lot more of the colleges are now starting up mentorship programs where they're taking students that they think are their brightest, and they're putting them with producers for a day, and they're going, look, go with we've asked him, go and spend a day with him on your project and just hang out with him for the day. And there's none of this classroom environment. It's like, kettle on first, we'll shoot shit for 2 or 3 hours, then we'll maybe listen to your thing, and then we start getting into the real essence of what they're trying to do. And it's much more about that mentoring them than, because I had mentors, I had brilliant engineers that I learned from. And assisting
people you look up to.
Yeah, totally. I mean, about 10 years ago, I was going, I'd love to just go back and engineer for a great producer.
Right,
because that's when you really get pushed, and that's when you're getting into. I mean, I was lucky. I got to spend probably about 12 weeks on with Sabbath with Rick Rubin.
Oh wow!
And just watching and absorbing what was going on was incredible, because controversial guy. Not everybody's definition of a producer, but God, it was like some of the shit. It's really interesting. Some of the shit he was pulling in on was like, energy on that isn't quite right, but it doesn't feel slower. What tempo are we at? And you're just like, well, that's actually quicker take, you know, but whatever it was going on, his feeling of it was
just
very
the way
much...
he processed it. Yeah.
And then translating that back, he was like, oh, that's a much better one. You start to grasp what's important.
Exactly, yeah. I mean,
but Mutt Lange, I heard...
teach that.
No, exactly.
What was that, Mutt Lange?
Mutt Lange, he's like the same. He's like, you know, that just feels a bit slow, that bar. Can we just like do something to make it feel more energetic? You know, it's all been done to a click.
Yeah. But the performance isn't quite
it's
there.
just not quite in there. So I think that's where people could learn an awful lot.
Definitely.
And you know, I'll have anybody come and sit with me, but it's less and less appropriate nowadays. You know.
It's hard. I'll tend to. I mean, I came from a studio where the wheat was sorted out from the chaff very quickly, because being a T-boy at Trident was quite hard. It was very hard. It wasn't, you know, it was like a real menial job, and I think they tended to do it to sort out people that could be fucked, to really wanted to do this and really like not in it for the right reasons. So T-boys would get cleaned out very quickly, and I luckily sort of went the distance. So now if I find someone that you can see it in them. I'm sure you can. You can
definitely.
Tell someone that's like, well, you're going to sort of
they're normally quiet, but they've got this.
They've just, I don't know.
They're on every word.
Yeah. And so, they're on every word, and things are done before you ask for them. That was one thing I remember. I can't remember who said it. I think Alan said it. It's like you tend to do things before you sort of. I'd work with him a lot, but I'd sort of know that he's going to want that in a bit, and you'd have it ready.
Yeah.
It was normally a cup of tea when he was annoyed. That was always a good one. I got to get the tea ready. But yeah, so there's a couple of kids that there's a couple of lads that I've been working with recently that I've taken along to sessions with me. You know what I mean? I'm confident to have them in, that they're not going to cause a shit show and embarrass me. And they're generally sort of, they do thrive on that, and they sort of build up and it's good to see. So, but you can't do it. You know what I mean? You can't do it for everyone. I'd love to be able to help more, but that's just the way it goes, isn't it, with the studios? But it'll be fine. You know what I mean? It will be fine.
Yeah. So I guess really, how do you? I guess you're fairly busy. As busy as you want to be. Yeah. With family and stuff. Yeah. Fairly positive about the industry.
I am. I am. It's not quite as full on as it used to be. Which it's quite a good thing. Like I used to work like just for months on end, and it was like it was never ending. But at that time in my life, I loved it. It was like that sort of intensity was great. But no, I'm really happy with where it's at the moment. I don't really see. I mean, it could always be better, couldn't it? It's just the same with anything. But I have a steady amount of things coming through that I love doing. You know what I mean? I'm not doing stuff for the sake of it. You know what I mean? So which I think is very important when you're doing stuff that's just because it's there, just because it's work to keep the diary full. I think that's a bit soul destroying. I'm lucky to be working on stuff that I love a lot of the time. And the same with bands I'm working with at the moment. It's like I'm lucky to be working with bands that I'm really into, and it's great. I love it. And
do you find more contact from bands themselves happening, or is it record companies still looking at you? How does that work?
I think you have to be a bit more proactive these days. You have to sort of go and get involved, and obviously the social media side of things is important. Because that's. It seems to be that's how people know that things are going on with you, and I find that quite hard because it's not what I grew up in. No. You know what I mean? It's like
that's what you need an intern for.
Yeah, I'm not very good at sort of doing the whole like, hey, look at this record I just done. I'm so proud of it. I don't really like that. Although I am always very proud of every record I've done, but I don't always like.
You need someone to talk about you. See, that's why I drag Mike along. He always introduces me and tells everybody what I've done.
Yeah, exactly. That is.
I don't drag him along. He normally drives.
Yeah. That is good. But I think you do have to be, like I said, a bit more proactive and contact bands or contact management and sort of put it out there that you're into that band and because sometimes I don't know if you noticed this, but I feel that sometimes I get overlooked because of my I've done in the past.
I didn't want to go down that route because it was such a positive thing, but the elephants in the room, which aren't elephants, did Grammy success have an effect on perception of your availability and...
not really.
Not even Grammy success, just overall success.
Yeah, not as much. There was definitely a point, I think, where it sort of you get to a level and it sort of it evens off a little bit. But yeah, sometimes I've spoken to like managers, just like we're going out to see a gig, and it's like, oh, I love this band, I'd really love to work with them. It's like, really? And they think that it's like you wouldn't touch them unless they've got a like £500,000 to throw at you. It's like, no, man, it's like that's what this is. Not in it for the. Obviously, we all have to pay mortgages and earn a living and put food on the table. But I'm not in it for fucking earning as much money as I can. I'm in it for working on great records because it's what makes me tick. I love it. Totally. You know what I mean? It's what I get up in the morning for. So yeah, there is sometimes a bit of a sort of a bridge to get over.
Yeah, I find it a lot. It's like that. We couldn't possibly afford to work with him.
Done
and it's
this
like,
and that
you never asked.
Yeah, exactly. I'd love to.
I'd rather produce this and mix it than mix that shit.
Yes.
That I've just got from your mate that doesn't know how to record.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That would have sounded so much. It would have been done quicker.
Yes.
It would have sounded like you, and that's frustrating for me. But that's a lot that. What I was going back to with the lack of training. Sometimes I'll get stuff to mix, and it sounds like it's been recorded well. You know what I mean? Like the overheads are nice, but it doesn't sound like someone's gone, right, let's fucking put that through this and make it. It's all very by the book, and sometimes I think that is how, if you learn off of books and YouTube, that is how things, how you go, well, that's how it's done. Whereas if you're working with engineers and someone's putting a fucking RE20 on a hi-hat and it sounds amazing, I'll try that next time, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I still use a thing on drums now. I put a 414 on the floor, just behind the drummer here. Right. Because once I was fucking years ago, and I was getting the drum stand up, and I put the 414, and I thought he'd put it on the stand quite far back, but he hadn't put it on stand. He'd forgotten. I was like, oh, that sounds fucking great. And I was like, it's really, and I was like, where is it? And it's like, oh, it's down there. And he's like, oh, I forgot to put it on stand. It's like, oh, leave it. It sounds fucking great. And I still use it. It's like a massive accident. I can't remember who I was watching. Because my YouTube's just like, it's just on all the time with stupid shit. Right. Like one run rolls after another. Yeah. And someone said they'd stuck it was Dan last week. Dan down in Kent. He said he sticks a 414 underneath the snare pointing at the kick drum, and it's just this lovely area.
Oh, okay.
Where you pick up the energy of that part.
I used to put a PZM under there.
Which is brilliant. PZM.
Yeah.
It's brilliant, because those are the kinds of things that it's like, just listen to what's coming through. And if it's not exciting, why isn't it?
Yeah, it's definitely your ears that you got, and that is the sort of thing. So you can't do that. It's of course you fucking can. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. You get these sort of recordings, and a lot of the time I find myself sort of, I don't know, putting one of the mics through an amp and just getting something a bit sort of not nice. You know what I mean?
Well, I had it recently. I was doing some stuff for Warm Audio. They sent over some stuff, and they got a FET 47 replica. Oh, okay. And any good? Really good. Oh, okay. But the first test was, the guy goes, so we're going to put it in front of the kitchen. No, fucking not. It's going inside it. And it was brilliant, because what did the front sound like? It sounded like a piece of mylar flapping. It's like, stick it inside, and it sounded like this
big light.
And it wasn't distorting. It was just right.
Oh,
and that's
right. Okay, that's interesting.
These whole things of like, just the sheep mentality of just doing what everybody else does.
Yeah.
See, I don't give a fuck anymore about what people think.
No.
I'm just like, I like that, and I will absolutely, to my dying day, say I really believe in what I'm doing. Therefore, if I like the sound of that and the band do, job done. Yeah. Whereas too many people are just a little bit too frightened. So
it's got to be vibey, isn't it? It seems a lot of the time, I don't know this for a fact, but it sounds like they're just putting the mic that's the right one, putting it up, getting the right level, and it never really gets monitored.
No.
Do you know what I mean? Or we know the drums are going there, and we just hear them, and then it's sort of, whereas I'm sure you work the same way. I get the drum sound up, and I sort of mix it in, and
absolutely.
that's like, it pretty much stays like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
well,
like,
as soon as, because it's like once the band are playing, you know what you've got to accomplish.
Yeah.
And generally it's like faders are at -5 or 0 on a desk, and you mix into the session.
Yeah. So, and you sort of mix it, so I'll get the drums and normally the bass with it, and then it's like and it sort of all starts to sort of
well, because it was laziness back in the day. If you went from studio to studio, you wanted to stick the faders all up in a row and go, oh, my mix sounds
That's good. Yeah, you weren't doing spend an hour saying, hang on a second, I'll be with you in a minute. You just wanted
exactly.
to go,
And I think that's what people miss. It's too easy to fire up a session, and it's like faders everywhere, and it's instant recall.
Yeah, that's always there. Yeah, I know. That's what I mean. A lot of the skill of that's where I think a lot of the balancing skills come from those days where you did like put the tape up and you were whizzing through like maybe 3 or 4 tracks a day of doing like vocal, and then we've got these guitars on that one, and you'd be swapping tapes, and then it's like you'd have to be really on it with your balancing heads.
Yeah, and also your documentation was moaning old bastards.
Yeah.
But it's like I look back at track sheets and I'm like, fucking hell, that was hard work. I had a guitar finished here, a solo there, then a vocal took over at that point.
Then the tambourine.
I mean, everybody's probably got access to Bohemian Rhapsody multi-tracks. And it's like, how the fuck did they ever make that mix? Because that would split out to about 70 tracks if you did it nowadays.
It was like you say, you'd record it at a level so the fader wouldn't move.
Yeah.
So if you had something here, you'd record it maybe the tambourine at like half the volume that you would normally.
Exactly.
But then it would just balance. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's engineering skills, isn't it?
Exactly. Children of today.
No, I love that.